You versus you, the art of beating your yesterday, the noise of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, dreamers, and builders, we live in an era of unprecedented noise. Never before in human history have we had such immediate, relentless access to the lives of others. We wake up, and before our feet even touch the floor, we reach for a device that instantly floods our brains with the curated highlights of a billion other souls. We see the finished product. We see the promotion. We see the perfect relationship. We see the physique sculpted by lighting and filters. We see the vacation, the car, the accolade. And in that split second, faster than a conscious thought, a subconscious calculation occurs. A measurement is taken. You versus them. And in that calculation, almost invariably, you lose. You lose because you are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage, your doubts, your messy mornings, your failures, your anxieties with their highlight reel. You are comparing your bloopers to their Oscars. This is the great tragedy of the modern condition. We are drowning in a sea of comparison. We look sideways to validate our existence. We check the scoreboard of social approval to see if we are winning. But let me tell you something that you feel deep in your bones, even if you haven't admitted it out loud. Comparison is not just the thief of joy. It is the assassin of potential. When you look sideways, you slow down. Imagine a sprinter running the 100-meter dash. The moment they turn their head to see where the competitor is, they lose aerodynamic form, they lose momentum, and they lose fractions of a second. In the race of life, looking at the other lane is the fastest way to trip in your own. We have forgotten who the real opponent is. We have been tricked into thinking we are in competition with the world. We think we are competing for limited resources, limited attention, limited success. But that is a lie. The world is abundant. The only scarcity that exists is the scarcity of your own focus, the only valid metric. So, if we are not competing with the world, who are we fighting? Walk to the nearest mirror. Look closely. Stare into your own eyes until it becomes uncomfortable. That person looking back at you, that is the only competition that matters. The philosophy I am asking you to embrace today is not easy. It requires a radical withdrawal of your attention from the external world and a fierce redirection of that energy inward. It is the philosophy of self-competition. The goal is not to be better than the person standing next to you. The goal is to be better than the person you were yesterday. This shifts the metric of success. If your neighbor buys a bigger house and you feel small, that is the external scorecard. If you conquer a fear that held you back last week and you feel proud, that is the internal scorecard. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful men in history, lives by the internal scorecard. He asks a simple question. Would you rather be the world's best lover, but known as the world's worst, or the world's worst lover, but known as the world's best? If you live by the external scorecard, you want the reputation, not the reality. You want to look like a winner rather than be a master of your craft. But when you switch to the internal scorecard, the applause of the crowd becomes irrelevant. The only applause that matters is the quiet satisfaction of knowing you gave everything you had. You must fall in love with the process of your own evolution. You must become obsessed with your own potential, not someone else's results. The ghost of potential. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine that when you die, you meet the person you could have become. Imagine standing face to face with the version of you that didn't succumb to fear, the version of you that didn't waste hours scrolling through other people's lives, the version of you that was disciplined, kind, relentless, and focused. Now, imagine that version of you is standing there, looking at you. Will you recognize each other, or will you be strangers? Will that meeting be a moment of joy or a moment of devastating regret? Your life should be a relentless pursuit of closing the gap between who you are and who you are capable of being. That is the race. That is the competition. Every morning, the gap exists. Every evening, you should have closed it, even if just by an inch. When you focus on others, you are ignoring that gap. You are letting your potential wither while you water the garden of your jealousy. Jealousy is simply an indicator that you are not doing the work you know you should be doing. It is your soul screaming at you to get back in your own lane. The power of compound growth. Let's talk about the mathematics of self-improvement. We often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. We want the quantum leap. We want the viral moment. We want the lottery ticket. But nature does not work in leaps. Nature works in compounding. If you commit to being just 1% better every single day, the math is staggering. You don't just become 365% better because of compound interest, because today's improvement builds on yesterday's. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, mathematically, you end up 37 times better by the end of the year. $1.01. 365 equals $37.8. Think about that. 37 times better. But the reverse is also true. If you get 1% worse, if you slack off, if you skip the gym, if you choose the easy path, if you let resentment rot your heart, you degrade down to almost $0. $0.99. 365 equals $0.03. This is the choice you face every morning. Did you read one page today? That's a win. Did you do one more rep than last time? That's a win. Did you control your temper when normally you would have snapped? That is a victory. These victories are silent. No one will give you a trophy for them. Instagram won't care. But these are the bricks that build the cathedral of character, embracing the darkness. Now, I am not suggesting that this path is sunshine and rainbows. Competing with yourself is actually harder than competing with others. Why? Because you can deceive the world, but you cannot deceive yourself. You know when you cut a corner. You know when you gave 80% but acted like you gave 100%. You know when you stayed up late wasting time. You can lie to your boss, your spouse, and your friends, but you cannot lie to the man in the mirror. Competing with yourself requires brutal honesty. It requires you to look at your failures not as a reflection of your worth, but as data. When you compare yourself to others, failure feels like shame. They are succeeding, and I am failing. Therefore, I am less than. When you compete with yourself, failure is just feedback. I tried this, it didn't work. I need to adjust my strategy for tomorrow. You must learn to love the darkness of the woodshedding. In jazz, woodshedding is when a musician goes into the practice room, the woodshed, and plays the same difficult passage over and over again until they can't get it wrong. It's lonely, it's repetitive, it's boring, and it is exactly where greatness is born. While the world is busy posting about their hustle, you need to be in the woodshed, actually hustling. While they are talking about their plans, you need to be executing yours in silence. Let your results make the noise, eventually. But for now, fall in love with the quiet grind, the call to action. So, how do we leave here and actually apply this? How do we break the addiction to comparison? Create barriers. Curate your inputs. If following someone makes you feel inadequate, unfollow them. Protect your mental space as if it were a fortress. You cannot focus on your own race if you are constantly watching the spectators. Document your journey. Start a journal, not a diary of feelings, but a log of performance. What did you do today? What did you lift? What did you write? What did you create? Look back at your journal from 6 months ago. That is your proof of growth. That is your dopamine hit. Define better. What does better look like for you? Not for society, for you. Is it being a more patient father? Is it being a more creative engineer? Is it being physically stronger? Define the parameters of your own game so you can actually win it. Forgive your past self. You cannot compete with yourself if you hate yourself. Forgive the version of you that made mistakes. They did the best they could with the knowledge they had. Thank them for getting you here, and then dismiss them. You are under new management. Thank you.